It's with a good person.
And we are live. Hello, everybody. I know we haven't done a live stream in a while, but some of that was just due to timing and life getting in the way of some of our people here at Retroblasting. But after the video that I dropped tonight, this afternoon, there was a lot of comments going on. And I know that this discussion, has been boiling in the last few days since people started getting their HasLab Sentinel. So I wanted to bring on some people that I know real well who are avid toy collectors to this day to talk about this whole HasLab thing, not just the Sentinel, but HasLab in general as it relates to the toy, collecting landscape. So first of all, I want to introduce Scuba Pete. You guys know him from Iconicon and a number of other video live streams that he's been a part of. He is also one of our trusted moderators here, but he's also one of the regular co-hosts of Chasing 80s Toys, which is Chris Miwa's YouTube channel. Scuba, tell everybody about Chasing 80s Toys real quick.
So I have the pleasure of coupling up with my very good friend Chris Miwa. His YouTube channel's Chasing 80s Toys, and he puts up with me regularly doing toy hunt videos and G.I. Joe sundry items. But it's a great small channel that again deserves to be a whole lot larger than it is. And so I'm regularly just like, hey, do you want to do another toy hunt?
I just watched the one you did. I just watched the one that got posted. What was it, last night or this morning? Or
yeah, this morning. Yep.
Yeah.
Got a brand new hunt up. And
you find the coolest places.
This southern Indiana, Kentucky area, and even into Ohio is just chocked full of spots. And so we've got that new hunt just dropped here in Louisville, and then coming up in probably a few weeks or so is another one that just got back from doing a giant loop of Cincinnati on up into Dayton and then back down of just some incredible shops. Yeah, a vintage is live and well, and there's lots of good prices and awesome stuff to be had.
You guys are lucky up where you are. Super lucky. I mean, we're starting to get a few stores, but most of them are like a drive away. Sometimes I feel like I'm in the Donner Party or something where it's like, we're going to have to Oregon Trail it to the other store. There's only
over
one.
The mountain.
Yeah, there's our general store, but if you want something else, you're going to have to go to St. Louis. It's the whole thing.
Just avoid California. You'll be fine.
And with that, I wanted to make sure that everybody knows that Salty, aka Sal from 2 Cents Toys, is here with us tonight. Sal, tell everybody where they can find you real quick and what you've got coming up on your channel.
All right. Hello, I'm Sal. Before I start that real quick, just before anyone gets their undies in a bunch, that was not a dig at California. Just look up Donner Party and you'll see why that was the joke. Okay. So, because I know some people get sensitive. But yes, I'm Sal. 2 Cents Toys. Michael and I are longtime friends. It's my first time meeting Scuba Pete. I'm just kidding. So, been around for a while, running pretty much an idiot circus on my channel. Talk about mostly modern toys. But very recently, it's been almost nothing but Motu Origins because that's what's coming out. But it's a fun time. Try to be as objective as I possibly can, and that's it's kind of the short and the long of it. I'm somewhat of a toy customizer, though very much an amateur, and I'm just very happy to be here and talk about this here Sentinel here, which, yes, I know, before anyone says this is the wrong Sentinel, no, it's the correct Sentinel. It's the exact one I wanted to put up.
Well, I wanted to bring this up real quick. Wicked Person, and I'm clicking the wrong button because I'm in the wrong window. Wicked Person, thank you for the super chat. He said, old school newspapers, magazines, news, and stores are kind of over, and we're being told how things will be now. Do we get any say? Will they stay sucky? Well, that's a great way to kind of kick off our discussion. We all have different opinions and different levels of engagement with Hasbro and HasLab, I expect. I know that Sal does, and that's great because that means we can all weigh in different facets. We've heard the phrase overused too much in the last few years, echo chamber. That's not what I like to do on my channel. If a person is comfortable in their own skin, then that's the best conversation to have. So I wanted to ask you guys real quick, just to get started, your initial reactions to HasLab becoming a thing in 2018 when they announced that sail barge and just they announced the concept for HasLab. What were your initial reactions and responses to that? No wrong answers.
Honestly, I was excited. The way that was billed is, we're going to do things that no one else dare do. Like we wouldn't even make just general runs of these. And I'll be honest, with the sail barge, yeah, I was sitting there looking at it and going, I really, really want to do that. I want to and then the price point, I'm like, no,
right.
You have a child in school.
Right. Exactly.
Given that I would be, if that were to come out now with my circumstances, I would be, I think, for the $500 or whatever it was, if that was the initial 2-day, like we don't know anything else about them, yeah, I would totally jump into that. Yeah, that initial excitement was definitely there. Like, whoa, this is going to be something special, spectacular.
Yeah. Sal?
So again, pretty much the idiot clown of the circus. I didn't have an opinion. I was really confused on how it worked because I saw the sail barge and I was like, oh man, I really want one of those. And like Scuba, I saw the price on it. Now, my only experience with a Kickstarter format was Indiegogo. And with Indiegogo, you put your money up and you lose it. Like
right.
if they don't make it, that's tough luck. Yeah. You're out your money. And so I was like, that's a lot of money. What was it, like $500 or something? I was like, I can't take that gamble, not knowing that you wouldn't be charged unless it funded. I didn't understand that. And I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So.
Yeah, my initial response, which I'm sure a lot of people in the chat probably saw back when it happened, was just that I would have gladly paid for a sail barge in the store or even through an online retailer if they had offered it up as just an item, because some people have this false conception that I don't collect modern and that I hate modern, and that's not true. I want things that make sense, and in the case of modern, especially with Star Wars, as you guys know, knowing me, I love collecting quality pieces that will integrate with my vintage stuff that they didn't make for the vintage line.
Yep.
So I made no bones about the fact that I don't have a problem with the sail barge as a product, like as a vehicle, as a thing they wanted to make. I would have been all over it. I'd have been hunting Walmarts and Targets and going online and Big Bad Toy Store and all that stuff. It was the Kickstarter part that I was like, I don't understand why an $11 billion company needs my money up front to do anything. That's just weird to me. It's just weird. And I got in a lot of hot water for that with starry-eyed collectors. And then somehow I ended up in Australia, but that's a story for another time. So after the sail barge, we had the Cookie Monster debacle. And I saw somebody today actually using, oh crap, Lio's in the chat. Sorry, Lio. Sorry about that.
That's all right. I got my time mixed up here, so I'm late.
Oh, no, that's okay. That's quite all right. I just hope you weren't sitting in the green room for like 15 minutes.
It was about 5 hours, but it's all good. It's all good.
About 5 hours.
So everybody, before we keep going and I introduce Lio, Media Warrior, thanks for the super chat. He says, being a fan of anything is like an abusive, codependent relationship. And yes, it certainly can be if there's a lot of merch. That is very true. Connor Fuller, thank you for the super chat. He says, HasLab's projects should be flagship releases for a big firm. And as for Hasbro Pulse, never pay a corporation to have a monopoly. Crazy. I can't find any lie in that statement. Brian Dillingham, thank you so much for the super chat and supporting the stream tonight. And A World Made of Cardboard, thank you so much. He says, I give Hasbro about 10 to 15 years, no products on the shelves. The last few movies bombed. HasLab products messed up. Hasbro Pulse sold out. They are running out of new child fan loyalty like we had. Yeah, they really haven't kept kids engaged, at least from what I've seen. But let's continue with the discussion. Lio, first of all, tell everybody a little bit about your channel, what you have coming up, and where they can find you. We'll do it again at the end as well.
Okay. My channel covers a very wide range of topics between animation, sometimes swords, sometimes toys. It all depends ultimately on what I choose to do. I tend to focus in our wheelhouse of nostalgic properties, but I also branch out into things like the 90s and, of course, modern day stuff. I'm not adverse to that. I'm more of a modern collector, obviously, nothing vintage. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter now again, and, of course, on my channel, Lio Convoy's Reviews. And to put an interesting pin in Michael's point about corporations not knowing what we were doing, 3 hours ago on Twitter, a Twitter account called Stupid Buddy, which is a animation studio that works with Robot Chicken, just put out a short for a new Robot Chicken sketch where it's Duck Hunt with Disney duck characters, right? So Darkwing Duck, Launchpad, the three twins, and the triplets rather, and Scrooge. In the beginning of the clip, Darkwing gets shot in the shoulder and says it's a survivable injury. And right underneath it, the official Looney Tunes account says, "Tough break, Daffy, at least you've got another shoulder." So the people running these corporations can't even tell their own properties apart.
Their own
and
IP.
On Twitter. This is great. I love it.
Wow. Well, we were just kind of going round. Lio, tell us a little bit about your initial impression in 2018 when HasLab launched. What did you think just of the whole thing in general? There are no wrong answers. What did you think of the concept that HasLab purported itself to be, as well as that first product?
When HasLab came out talking about they were going to do things more niche to fan experiences, I was skeptical, like I am of all things, but I was kind of hoping, hey, maybe they'll put out something a lot of people aren't expecting, or more, well, again, niche things that you wouldn't see. Because, again, I don't come from the Marvel Legends perspective. I don't come from the Star Wars perspective. I certainly don't come from the Sesame Street perspective. I come from the Transformer perspective. So I didn't care for the sail barge. I thought it was the goofiest thing in the world to come out with. And my issue will always be, this is a corporation. There are ways they can go about doing this without bilking that much money from collectors for over a year. But when it comes to my area here, Unicron, right? Unicron is like, I think 36 inches. I can't remember the exact height. And
yeah,
he's what our community calls a shell former. And what a shell former is you can take random kibble bits, which are just random parts of the alt mode that are hanging off the robot part. If you can cobble them together separate from the robot itself and create a visual of what the alt mode is, you have a shell former. And there's some specific Transformers that are like that. Big Convoy is like that. Break, the Penguin, is like that. You have several Transformer characters that are like that. And Unicron is too. He's a massive shell former, so where'd the price go? Well, the price went into God knows what, because it wasn't the engineering. And the reason why it wasn't the engineering is because that same year, Zeta Toys, a third-party, quote-unquote, third-party Transformer company, also decided they would, I don't know, shoot their testicles out at Hasbro and announce that they're also making Unicron. Then they had legal issues due to that because they were dumb about it, and they created instead something called the Cell Studio 1. And the Cell is animation accurate for the most part version of Unicron. He's not quite 2 feet. He's between 2 feet and 1.5 or 1.5 feet. I didn't completely measure him. He's not as tall as like the new Arc Transformer, but he weighs 5 pounds. He is a heavy sucker in terms of like density, and he goes from an almost 100% animation accurate Unicron to a planet. So this regular robot turns into a ball. There is no kibble. There is no parts forming. He's just there. And he cost, when he came out, at $300. The HasLab guy cost closer to $600. And now we're dealing with, of course, the Sentinel, which is closer to this third-party Unicron's price, not as heavily engineered. I almost question if he has as much articulation, because this thing is ridiculously articulated for what it is. And they dick up its knees? How do you do that?
I am boggled. I am boggled by that, and we're ramping up to that release, that product launch. I did want to ask everybody: do you think, in hindsight, because I said this at the time after the sail barge got done, and HasLab announced that their second thing was going to be Cookie Monster, I said Cookie Monster was a straw man product that they knew wouldn't pass go. But they did it, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I just know corporations. They did it because they wanted to seem legit going forward, to always be able to say, well, look, not all of the HasLab products, got approved. The Cookie Monster, and I've already seen people using that as a defense for this broken Sentinel. Going, it's all about what people want. They don't make it what people don't want. That Cookie Monster, and it's like, so I just wonder, like, what you guys thought of that Cookie Monster. Did I have it all wrong? Is there like a massive Muppets thing that clearly didn't show up for the Kickstarter?
Yes, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately. I can't be that derogatory. I don't mean to be. There are some really hardcore Muppet fans, and they're not as in our zeitgeist or on our radar because of how they operate. But I think it's more of they don't tend to go in the same direction collecting that we do, from what I've seen, at least not of Muppet related things. And just having a giant Cookie Monster, what's the point?
Yeah.
I personally think HasLab's purpose should be to gather interest or even funding, for lack of a better word, occasionally funding, for extremely obscure things. Yeah. But they don't. Here's the thing: if they're doing it from scratch build mold, like they're doing with Victory Leo and Star Saber, which, if I threw those words out into the ether to 90% of the audience here, they probably have no clue who I'm talking about, because it's from a Japanese exclusive Transformers cartoon. The problem we're having there is fantastic idea, but it's still riddled with a ton of doggone holes in the sucker for no real reason, because the entire reason why they had to gut a lot of Transformer designs is due to shipping, and they're shipping mass quantities. You don't have that excuse anymore for this. The only thing I can think of is they want to get it shipped in with some other batch of other Transformers, and they want to save on shipping for that. But it's incremental if you just pass it on to the people who are backing this. People who want the Star Saber, like Star Saber for him, they will back him. And they've done other more obscure Transformers now via Hasbro Pulse. They're doing Black Zarek, who within Transformers community, for a mint in box when he's considered like Schrodinger's Decepticon, because he's a whole bunch of plastic. This gold, this like the gold plastic. So you don't know if your Black Zarek is a complete mint example or if he's dust inside that box. So that's why it's called Schrodinger's Decepticon. But that's perfect, because they're taking the Titans Scorponok mold and they are refitting it and retooling it to make him Black Zarek, because the original toy was like that. That's great. That's cool. But my question is, how far can we push this to where it's something people really want? Because just having like a chug type of Star Saber, I mean, you're not going to be able to outdo the masterpieces out there currently. You could really push this in any direction you want, but they seem to go in the most mundane way of how they make things, and that's what bothers me.
What do you think, Scuba, about the way they've progressed? I mean, I don't know if you collect a lot of Transformers. Were you impressed with the Unicron when it was announced?
I'm not a Transformers guy. That was my brother, and so that was a very easy pass for me. yeah, I saw it as, okay, now they're gonna, they're switching to a different fan base that's saying,
Right.
yes, where's ours?
Right.
I was just like, meh.
Wah, wah.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
Sal, what did you think? Sal? I don't know if you collect a lot of Transformers or not. I don't see a lot of them in your videos, so I assume you don't.
Two questions. What is Hasbro and what is a Transformer? No, my Transformers knowledge begins and ends with Beast Wars.
Okay.
So I don't have a horse in this race.
Okay, fair enough. Well, then I believe the next big launch was the Razor Crest. So, Scuba, I'm going to throw it to you because you've got a lot of Star Wars vehicles behind you. What were your thoughts on that? I mean, because you just talked about the sail barge and how if you've been in the right timing frame, you might have, gotten one of those. What did you think of the Razor Crest when they announced it?
It definitely piqued my interest. Again, I did not pull the trigger on it. I mean, I love The Mandalorian. I enjoyed it. But I didn't see it as like, oh, we're doing a HasLab, Super Millennium Falcon, with that kind of emotional investment and attachment on my part. I was like, okay, I like the Razor Crest. It's cool. But I'm like, do I want one the size of a coffee table?
Right.
That's what the flag is for.
That's exactly. It's right behind me.
Right.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I've already got something that ginormous. I'm like, I mean, I like it, but I don't like it enough to have one that size. And then to, the ordering closed. We launched the next season, and then it gets blown up, which was
right.
I was actually laughing.
Yeah, I kind of was too.
I'm like, you got to be freaking kidding me.
Apparently Hasbro knew that was happening, and they went ahead with this thing anyway.
Like, we're gonna do it anyway.
Yeah. So Sal, first of all, we have a nice super chat here from James Salzberg. He says, "I hope Sal got his snake. I don't support HasLab." And just making sure we haven't missed anything here. We have one. I'm going to just make sure. I got to check. We have a super chat here from A World Made of Cardboard. He says, I've loved puppets and the Muppets since childhood. Sorry, Melinda. But I cannot justify $300 for a Cookie Monster. I am just not that big of a fan. I understand. I really understand.
You can buy a lot of cookies.
Yep.
Yes.
And I'm just going to say, if you really want it that badly, I'm sure there's some basement somewhere that hasn't been updated since the 70s. You just rip out their blue shag carpet for them and just have your own.
Couple goggly eyes.
He says, thank you for the super chat. He says, I also love Transformers and Unicron. Even planned to build one in the 80s out of my cardboard, but I saw the shell former and said, no way. So he's aligned with you, Lio, on that one. So Sal, tell us a little bit about your reaction to the Razor Crest, and then we'll get on to the Sentinel itself.
So the Razor Crest, I have a kind of the project itself. I have kind of a weird connection to, but the project itself, I'm like, the Razor Crest at the time it was announced, like Mando season 2 was going on. I'm like, this is an incredibly popular TV show. People are loving it. It's even brought back a lot of the older fans like myself who don't like Disney Star Wars at all. And I'm like, this would work at retail. I don't know why they're not just like get the oh god, words are hard. The Legacy Falcon, they got the update for $400 or whatever it is on Target, sold out instantly. And I'm like, why is this being crowdfunded? Like the Razor Crest. And then the day it ended, the very next morning, that episode of Mando came out and it got blown up. I was like, oof. Okay, that's why. They knew. So I'm inadvertently ending up with one. There's a long story short to it. A friend of mine needed me to get it for him or on his behalf, spouses and all that. And his life situation has changed. So now I'm ending up with it and I don't want it. So now I'm saddled with this 50-inch television-sized ship that I have no room for.
Yeah.
So,
And it is oddly shaped, and the weight distribution on it's weird. So it's hard to put in a place,
right.
you know, like it
Yeah,
in many ways is like the Slave One, where it's awkward from all angles. And so it's, you know, but at least with the Slave One, you can get it on a stand where it's, you know, stands
Right.
up like this. You can kind of get it in a corner. Whereas the Razor Crest, it's like a big unwieldy beer cooler. It's kind of got this, you know, kind of, yeah, it's
T-shirt
strange.
cannons on either side of it.
Yeah. Around the same time that they announced the Razor Crest, I believe it was within a few weeks, was the announcement of the Sentinel. And they were going to do this big, you know, giant size Marvel Legends scale Sentinel. Before we jump into the Sentinel itself, how many of us here on the chat actually buy Marvel Legends semi-regularly?
Hello.
So it's just Sal and myself. Thomas, what about you?
Yeah, I bought. God, what was the last one? Last one I bought was like the Kraven and Spider-Man 2-pack, because Kraven's Last Hunt, specifically the one where Kraven shoots himself in the head, was actually my first Spider-Man comic. But now, as I'm getting older and I've been selling a lot of stuff I really don't need anymore, I'm like, you know, I'm really tied to the story, but I don't really need a toy. So now that's up on eBay. So I don't really buy Marvel Legends all that much. When it comes to comic characters, unless it's Batman, I'm far more interested in the comics, oddly enough, and the stories than I am the figures, which is odd because I'm a massive Transformer fan, but whatever.
I freely admit that while I only buy certain ones, like, you know, Spider-Man and some of those characters from the late 80s, early 90s comics that I collected, you know, because it's all about that time in your life, you know.
Sure.
Everybody has their own era. And then I collected a lot of the MCU characters from, you know, Iron Man to Endgame, just the ones I thought looked the best. And I did a video where I showed how I cobbled together a few at Kit Bash to get what I thought were idealized action figures of them. I do find myself, admittedly, occasionally going after random ones. So, like, you know, I go out and I've purchased secondhand the more Mark Bagley Spider-Man, and then the symbiote Spider-Man with the Mark Bagley eyes. I've gotten some of the retro Spider-Man waves, like Gwen Stacy. I got the Mary Jane from the Toys R Us 2-pack several years back.
Yeah.
Black Cat, J. Jonah Jameson. You know, I've gotten a bunch of those. As you saw in the Pride of the X-Men video, I went and got my X-Men arcade group, and I just did the video about Spider-Man and his amazing friends, getting those. So in that sense, I'm not all in on Marvel Legends. I pick and choose. For some reason, I bought Rogue. I always buy Rogue when they update Rogue, and I have Psylocke. I haven't even taken Psylocke out of the box. And I've got the Jean Grey, Wolverine, Cyclops 2-pack. I don't know why. I just picked it up because I saw it and I was like, all right. Part of me thinks it has something to do with the way they sculpt certain characters, and then I'm just like, oh, that looks really good, so I got to grab that. But anyway, so yeah, I laser focus. So when they announced the Sentinel, I just wasn't. I know there's huge X-Men fans, and I'm not saying that it was a bad move to do that product. Once again, though, I kept doing the tally. Like, everything except Cookie Monster was a retail shelf home run. And yet they were kickstarting it. So can anybody here, Thomas, Sal, either of you, I throw it to both of you. Am I wrong in thinking that a Sentinel would have sold very, very well at retail, even if it was like the Legacy Falcon as an online exclusive at Target or Walmart? I think those things would have sold like that.
The Sentinel would have sold immediately. My channel pretty much cut its teeth in the early days of Marvel Legends. I've been in the Marvel Legend groups for a long time. Even back October 2018 is when they released this one, who's almost exactly a foot shorter and about 10 pounds lighter than the HasLab one. And before that, there was the Toy Biz Build-A-Figure, and that one still fetches a premium. It's still usually about $200 looking at that one. And people were buying them up all day because they're army builders. You know, you always see, like, usually about, at least in the, like, animated series, for example, about 3 Sentinels at any given time. Like, they don't usually just send out one. So there's a high demand or there's a big market for things like that. That's actually why I ended up backing the HasLab Sentinel in the first place. I had this guy, and I wanted more of them, but this was 2020, and he came out in 2018. He retailed for, I think, $90 or something on Amazon. He came with a Wolverine and this big, nice kind of box and all that. And he was already climbing up to close to $300 on the secondary market because they weren't making them anymore. And I was like, the price difference between him and the HasLab Sentinel was like $50. And I was like, well, I may as well get the new ones. So that's how I ended up backing them. But yeah, they would have sold out. Like, even just looking at the sales numbers for the Sentinel and HasLab, it's like, wow, that's proof in the pudding right there that they would have sold out quickly. Like, yeah, they maybe would have had to do a limited run first. Like, they're clearly not going to send 30 of them to every target or whatever. But I don't know. The whole concept of it doesn't work at retail just doesn't fly with me. It doesn't fly. So,
what do you think, Thomas? Oh, sorry, Sal. Go ahead. I didn't mean to run over you.
That's it. I was going to keep meandering until someone cut me off.
Oh, okay.
Here's what it comes down to. What they could easily do with any of these HasLab things, specifically something like the Sentinel, they could have done the crowdfunder kickstart, right? Let's assume that's what they want to do going forward. It's not hard to do that. And then say, all right, the people who are paying for this, you're the first in the door. You get this before anybody else. And then afterwards, now that this thing's funded, it has been tooled, it has been ready, boom, then we're going to put it out into retail. And that way, anybody else who wants one can get one. Yes, a Sentinel would absolutely sell at retail because Hasbro's already proven stuff that is big will. And I'm sorry, but there are more people who know and like X-Men who are going to buy this than people are expecting. I dare say it probably rivals Transformers, but there's an issue here. And the issue is Hasbro's having problems. And they're having problems with how they're creating products. I'll go off on a real quick segue here. I recently got in all 4 of the reissue Beast War figures. I got the Optimus Primal, the Megatron, the Rat Trap, the Cheetor. These people don't know what they're doing. And that's embarrassing for a corporation. Here's what I mean by that. If you look, I did a Twitter thread on, but if you look at the package art where it shows all the characters that you can buy on the back of Optimus Primal or Megatron, the production image they use for Cheetor is from the 2006 release that was the 10th anniversary. They're not even using the actual toys they're putting there. And there's quality control issues out of the wazoo here. My Optimus Primal has red paint where there shouldn't be any at all. He's got severe problems with his articulation. He has a gap in his elbow because somebody didn't tighten the ratchet in. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on the camera and show you part of the problem here. So how do I do this? Start cam. Well, that'll work. Okay, so these are supposed to be one-to-one reissues. They've changed a few things, and for the most part, that's fine. Here's the original Beast Wars Megatron from 1996. Let me go ahead and get a little closer here, so give me a moment. His little tail accessory. You're supposed to be able to have him pinch at things with it. Don't really feel like doing it right now, but it holds in place if you're not using the mechanism. Now, you take a look at that color of purple. It's really hard to see because the walls here are yellow and it's terrible, but here's the reissue. He's a much deeper purple. There's a lot of different paint problems, and you cannot get this dumb thing to stay where it's supposed to.
Oh, wow.
This toy is 25 years old, and they still can't get it right later on. The original toy, you can still fiddle with him. He's got no problems. Everything works perfect, but one made months ago. Same toy, same mold. Quality control is absolute dog crap on them. And I don't know how they're having these issues. It seems like they're just not paying attention to anything they're doing. There's other issues too, but I'd be really into weeds to point all that out. It's just, I don't know what Hasbro's doing. I don't know where they lost their minds.
Yeah. Gano, thank you for the super chat. He says, despite me completely agreeing with the Hasbro faults Michael has brought to light, I have backed the new Transformers Victory Saber figure. It really seems Hasbro has a glaring Transformers bias. Thomas, do you think that Transformers bias in some ways, I know you've just shown us that their quality control is starting to slip. In some ways, is that partially due to support from Takara's designers, or is that not a factor?
I really couldn't tell you because Takara and Hasbro are basically on the same page at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some question about how that happened concerning market share. Because what you could do back during, let's say, the Titans Return toy line in 2015, you could get from Hasbro a toy with very little paint, very little deco, and a $15 for it. Or you could pay double that and get it from Takara Tomy a few months later with show accurate deco, sometimes extra accessories, a mini comic, all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. And at one point, Hasbro absorbed them or something, and now all the releases on either side of the continent are the exact same. And I know that there's a lot of engineering done on the Hasbro side of things. As far as Starsaber goes, my issue with him isn't that he's a HasLab, because that's fine because he's a niche character, he's obscure. The problem I have is all the corners they're going to cut producing him, and it's going to be a nightmare. He's going to be loose. He's going to have problems. The gaps are all over the place. And you'll have people, I ran into some clown on Twitter trying to say, well, the original Starsaber has gaps too. Yeah, but Starsaber, the original Starsaber here, you know what? I got him right here. We're going to do this. I'm going to be terrible about this on the internet. There you go.
Gano, thank you for the super chat. Go ahead, Sal. Or go ahead, Thomas.
The slots he pointed out, the holes, are like right here. In the arm. Yeah, that's actually a slot because the arm pegs into here.
Okay.
If you take a good look at Starsaber, the only places you find any holes are usually in areas that pins are driven into or small recessions on the back. This sucker is a doggone animal. And he's over a foot tall. He's got the Victory Leo on him and everything. If you think that HasLab is going to put out something of this durable quality, this weight, you're fooling yourselves. I know what I'm getting into when it comes to ordering from HasLab. I get it. He's obscure. I love Starsaber. I have the masterpiece. But if you think it's going to beat this in terms of quality, I'm sorry, but it's not.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Yeah. Gano, thank you for the super chat. He says, also, Michael, that's how I am with modern Transformers. I'm somewhat picky with generation. Other than that, I only collect early to mid 2000s and G1. I'm kind of in the same boat with you, Gano. I really am. I collect some Chug, but I mostly collect G1, and I'm kind of tapped out. I'm happy with my collection there. World Made of Cardboard, thank you for the super chat. He says, didn't watch The Mandalorian, but didn't the Razor Crest crash in just about every episode only to have it blown up when it landed? Okay, running joke. I only know that it blew up in one episode. Yeah. And then, okay, Chris McKeever's decided he wants to get real with this discussion. Do you want to fight scalpers in empty aisles? Well, Chris, I got this. Okay, all right, go ahead, Sal.
Yeah, crack my knuckles real quick. We already are, dude. Have you been to a toy aisle?
Yeah.
You're fighting them even for stuff that's retail released already.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't think he means figuratively.
Oh, I'll do it literally.
Well, that's the thing is that, Chris, you're acting like there's only two options. My whole thing with all the videos I've made is the entire Hasbro / Mattel toy collecting distribution product, dissemination system is broken and needs to be revamped and needs to be corrected. You're saying that if we don't have HasLab, we'll be fighting scalpers in the toy aisles. Well, as Sal has just astutely pointed out, we already are. And a lot of the people who bought the Sentinel have told me to my face very proudly today that they've bought 20 of them because these guys are professional scalpers and they're now selling known faulty HasLab toys on eBay for triple the price. So my point in saying that is if we fix the root problem, which is making sure that products meet demand and that they get into retail locations consistently so that people can find them, you would lose the enticement that a scalper would have for these items because they would know that everybody would be able to access them. And then on top of that, you wouldn't need a HasLab because everybody already wants this stuff. Like we've just said, There's no scenario I can figure out where a Sentinel or a Razor Crest of any size or price as a action figure toy wouldn't sell at retail. Show me one, and not like, oh, shelf space, because Target just sold the Galaxy's Edge Falcon. They did it as an online direct to consumer thing, but they sold it as an exclusive, and it sold out in seconds.
And
so yeah.
So to kind of go back to that a little bit, where I was making my point earlier, I saw a bunch of people in the chat saying, "Oh, this would never work at retail still, yada yada yada." Space, no one wants to carry that. NECA made a half scale, not quarter, not 1/6, half scale Deadpool, and it was on the shelves at Target. I saw it in person. They have the space; they can sell them. Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm seeing things here in the chat. Guys saying what retail? Oh, sorry, Scuba, go ahead.
I was just thinking, Lord knows there's plenty of space. I mean, there's just literally nothing.
Yeah,
except on the Lego aisle.
That's right, except Lego. Yeah, that's a great point. You know, somebody's saying right here, what retailer would stock something this size, let alone in quantities people would want? They've got plenty of room on those shelves to do whatever they want with them. There ain't nothing on those shelves right now. Have you been in a toy store or a toy aisle lately? Let's see. I think I missed a super chat here.
And then Trevor McGuire says down at the bottom, he's like, Walmart sells arcade cabinets, for crying out loud.
Right.
Yeah.
And they sit there, doggone it. They just sit there. They don't go down in price.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true. That's true. They do. Although I was truly bummed when they announced the X-Men cabinet was going to be $700. And I went,
get a custom one made.
Exactly. I was like, no, I'm not buying an arcade one-up for $700 when it doesn't have a custom controller needed. So, like, for example, the Star Wars cabinet was only $450, $500. When I say only, it was a premium cabinet. It was like their most expensive at the time. But the enticement was, we're going to recreate that controller for you, which is so unique because you need it to play that game. I've tried emulating it. It's very difficult. Whereas with X-Men, I've emulated that on MAME forever, and I just use a gamepad, and I'm just fine. So I wasn't about to pay $700 for a standard arcade cabinet running X-Men. Anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent. Wolfie says, thank you for the super chat. He says, Hasbro outsourcing its knee joints to NECA for premium figures is about as funny as a screen door on a battleship. Let's get these IPs to someone who gives an F. Great to see you guys tonight. I agree, Wolfie. I completely agree. And then lastly, we have a super chat here from Gano. Thank you for the super chat. He says, I mainly do all Transformers, but anyway, there's no chance that Starsaber's quality will beat the Masterpiece or G1. Don't get me started on Takara, as I heard Lio say earlier. Even the Masterpieces are having quality control issues. So, hey, look, man, I learned through osmosis. All right, I pick up on context clues. All right. So, sorry, go ahead, Lio.
I can actually comment on the Masterpiece stuff because I recently picked up the Masterpiece Starscream, and I'm not going to lie, he is gorgeous. He is almost one-to-one animation accurate. And if you look at the original animation models from G1, it shouldn't even be possible. His engineering is fantastic, but, and I hate the fact that I have to put that there, he has two major flaws. One, I don't know why, but this dude was sent out without any ratchets in his ankles. Instead, it's a straight pin. And while that's fine, in concept, the problem is, for most people, it broke. There's a fracture line where the pin sits, which means he does the Michael Jackson leaning forward pose for a lot of collectors. Right. That's a problem. And secondly, and this is something, okay, everybody who knows me knows I am a stickler for animation accuracy. I am, because I'm an animation guy. Not everybody is, I get it. But you don't need to paint the plastic in the same color it's molded in to make it animation accurate. NECA has the exact same problem with their Toon Turtles line, which means anytime you fiddle one of their toys, you got to brush it off like you just wrote down something and had to erase it because there's flakes everywhere. Hasbro's been doing that with their masterpieces. And the problem is twofold. Number one, of course, all the chipping. And number two, it artificially inflates the price. That Masterpiece Starscream was $250. And for something as amazingly engineered as that, if it was a one-time thing, cool. But you know they're going to redeco him. They already have him out there for 3 different molds: Starscream, Thundercracker, and Skywarp. Now, this is something I didn't even know about. I found out about it by listening to Jobby. This Starscream comes with a whole bunch of random extra parts. It's really cool. Lots of neat nods to random episodes. It doesn't have his coronation outfit. Generally, I don't care. Not really my thing. It showed up in one scene. Same with some of his other stuff. I wouldn't care less. But here's what Takara is doing. In order to get the coronation outfit, you have to buy Starscream, Thundercracker, and Skywarp, and then mail in a form to them, and they will send you the coronation set. But only if you're in Japan.
What?
That means you get scalped on a heck.
So you're saying that the original Masterpiece Starscream that had the coronation outfit outfit's not compatible with this.
It is not. Matter of fact, Jobby actually went over that. He's like, I tried. It is not compatible. he took shots at game companies as for downloadable content that you pay for, and the same concept. And it's not wrong. I mean, it's a nice perk. But if they didn't just say, hey, you have to buy all 3 of them and then mail us something, like right now at that point you're dropping like way too much money, like almost 8, if not. Hold on. That's got a message here. Doggone it. SWAT cat fell over. Another thing I spent way too much money on. You're spending $750 to get a coronation outfit. I'm just going to wait for the third-party people to come out and just send it out there for like $20. That's all I'm going to do at this point. And my thing is, I love Transformers. I do. And for the longest time, I was a diehard, on-the-line, Hasbro Takara only. I didn't meddle with third-party figures. Upgrade kits, cool. Add-ons, fine. But I'm like, this isn't cool because blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, you know what? They've had a decade at this point. A decade to catch up. Is the newest line really good? It absolutely is. But there's so many other issues. To give you an example, when I ran through the math when I did my video on the Unicron, we still haven't corrected that issue. If we were to adjust for inflation, the Megatron I just showed here would be $34. He's 55. Where is the other 20 coming from?
Right.
Because that's not just for this figure, right? Who probably weighs more than a leader class figure that's currently out, which, I could test. I do have that scale next. Matter of fact, I'm going to.
Science!
Stand back. We're going to use science.
There it is. Just give me a second here. Because I keep hearing this. I keep hearing this nonsense that, they're keeping up with inflation. No, they're not keeping up with inflation. They're blowing right past it. Like they're making the figures of weaker material. They're making them lighter. They're making them with more holes and at a higher price. So let's see here. Ultra Magnus, specifically, since I know somebody's going to ask, from the Transformers Kingdom line. Oop. He weighs 12 and a half ounces.
Okay.
Let's see here.
Everybody write that down.
Beast Wars, this is actually worse now. Beast Wars Megatron weighs 11 ounces, 0.2. Now I'm curious about if he matches the original toy. If that's lighter than the original toy, I'm going to have some serious questions. Okay, they're about the same because the original is 11.3. Yes, he has all this stuff on him. So it's really weird because like that extra ounce can't equal out to an extra $20. So I want to know where that's coming from. It can't all be the shipping either because the sheer amount that they sit there and they push through at some point, and I hate to get political here, we have to start asking if it's worth it even going through China at this point, or in the case of Transformer toys, Vietnam, and just start asking ourselves whether or not it would be literally cheaper to start producing them in the States again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Jim Largo, thank you for the super chat. He says, so, will HasLab send a pair of crutches to all their angry Sentinel customers? No more. Or support someone that cares about quality. I'm very much looking forward to the Valaverse Action Force for sure. Talking about those knees, Thomas, you were just saying that the Starscream was pinned, not ratcheted in the knees.
No, not knees, ankles.
Even worse. Yeah. They're coming out with the Rancor. That's the next thing. And I now, Scuba, you correct me if I'm wrong. You mainly collect vintage and 3 3/4 inch, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that,
I have some Black Series, so I'm
Mhm.
yeah. I was like,
so I don't want to assume. Maybe you're like one of those Rancor fanatics. Are you like a Rancor fanatic, and you're going to want that Rancor?
I want to see it, but I'm again, that's out of all the. I don't want to offend Rancor fanatics, but I'm like, the Rancor. That's what we're doing. The Rancor. Okay,
Scuba, you were the chosen one. I loved you so much till just now.
I mean, I like him, but I'm like,
yeah.
How about another ship?
I see what you're saying, Sal. I know that you're kind of headed towards the Rancor. We know this thing is going to be something where we know this thing
he's just transforming. It's fine.
We know this thing is something where there's going to be added articulation points, and they're going to try and make it, super Black Series scale style. But that means it's going to be bigger and heavier. Seeing what's happened with this Sentinel, are you concerned about the Rancor? Because I know you have an interest in backing it.
I'm very concerned. I am what you would call a Rancor fanatic.
Okay.
I love the Rancor. I don't know. It's a big scary monster thing. I have a thing for him. I have almost every version of the Rancor. That being said, that's basically a Virginia ham with arms. So it's going to be huge. They're going to add articulation. I'm very concerned about them trying to put knee joints in the Rancor, because it's going to be that line they're going to have to walk between. Like, the Rancor doesn't need bendable legs. It really doesn't. Like, maybe hip articulation is fine, but there's nothing those legs can do that's going to add height in any meaningful way, because it's a hunched over creature anyway.
Yeah,
right.
But then if they don't put articulation in it, people will be like, I can't believe they're charging this much, and there's no knees and no ankles, and it's like, okay, engineering aside. The Sentinel has me thinking I might not back it. If they don't publicly address the knee issue, then I'm very hesitant to even conjure a guess what's going to happen with those arms, which the arms, if I'm not mistaken, are about the same height as the Rancor itself.
Yeah.
Right.
So they're going to do probably hand articulation, elbows, shoulders, the whole nine. But the Rancor is not this agile character. We see it for a grand total of, what would you say, 5 minutes in Return of the Jedi?
Yeah, or less. Yeah.
And like half of that time it's spent dead. So, I'm not expecting it to be a ninja by any means, but it has me really, really concerned, because I was, as soon as they announced it, I don't know if it's public knowledge or not, but I think Bobby has talked about it a couple times. Like, he was pushing to have a Rancor done, and now it's being done. So that I have this kind of mental gymnastics connection to, like, oh, well, if I get this, I'm supporting what Bobby's dream was while he was there. But I don't know. I'm deeply concerned about backing it now. Like, the whole fool me once kind of thing.
What did you speaking? Sorry, go ahead, Scuba.
No, that's
okay.
That just totally makes me gun shy.
What did you guys think, if you heard about it at all? What did you all think about the fact that the Sentinel was on HasLab's or Hasbro's stream? I think it was either this morning or yesterday, and the chat was blowing up about the knee issue, and they just ignored everybody and wouldn't address it. They literally had it sitting there next to the designer, and they wouldn't even comment on it.
I'm not surprised. They probably, some lawyer somewhere probably knew what was going on, put a gag order on them and said, "Do not talk about this, or you're fired." That I wouldn't be surprised at all. Like, that's pretty much any job I've ever worked. If something kind of controversial is going on with the company or whomever you're working for, and there's a public meeting or something, they tell you, "Do not address this. Do not talk about it."
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Compartmentalized and
right. They need to look into these claims before they publicly address them.
Claim.
Right.
Right.
Because all these cell phone videos must be fake. Thomas, do you happen to know how the Unicron situation shook out with purchasers when they got them and they had different paint apps? And I know some of them were missing heads and they had to, missing parts. And do you happen to know how all that got settled with Hasbro and what the buyers ended up having to do?
For the missing parts and the missing heads, Hasbro actually just sent them out new parts. Or one of the bigger issues I noticed is a part of the instructions were missing. Now, granted, I never use them because I'm a man, but more importantly, they just corrected that. But when it comes to the garbage Rodimus and Galvatron and the incorrectly produced parts in terms of color, people just sat on it. Nothing happened. Come on, man. You don't know if they should have happened. Their corporations are going to continue. That's why they sat there next stream, probably sweating beads while people were in there addressing the chat. And they're just like, nope, we're not going to look at it. More than likely, they're probably streaming without seeing the chat in any way, shape, or form. It seems to me like that's something that corporations would do. Mm-hmm. I think the more important question about this Rancor is, will Michael finally have a challenger to his Panache Place Voltron in the form of this Rancor?
I'm not. You know what? I am not buying a HasLab product. I will not do it. Like I said, if they re-release the sail barge to retail, even if it's Target online exclusive, I will make an attempt to get the sail barge, but not through a Kickstarter. I will not do that. And then on top of that, when it comes to the Rancor itself, is it going to be tall enough to fight the Blitzway Voltron when that comes out? Because I've pre-ordered the Blitzway Voltron. So
same.
Yeah.
Same.
I don't know. Will it be 15 inches tall? Will it meet Voltron eye to eye? I'll never know because I'll never buy it. But that'd be an interesting question. Analog. Sorry, go ahead, Thomas. What were you saying?
The next HasLab project is going to be the Rancor pit. They're just going to sell you a dirt-filled garage.
Joke's on them. I already live in one.
Analog Toys is in the house. Can't wait to hear the Toy Guru's unique perspective on the HasLab Sentinel. And if you can hear his dulcet British voice in my head, like I can in my head, you can hear the sarcasm there. I have a feeling I know exactly what his perspective is, and that's they're doing the right thing. There's nothing wrong. This is what happens all the time. You should be grateful.
Whatever it is, it's going to be filled with 2 or 3 takes that he didn't edit out, poorly timed images, inability to cut a clip together. Whatever it is going to be bad. All I can imagine is Tony's entire reaction to seeing anything, because I know he pops up on everybody's recommended at some point. Imagine Tony just looks and says, wanka, and then moves on.
Yeah. Let's see. Venkman says, thank you for the super chat. He says, after hearing about the new masterpiece Starscream, I'm content with my Earthrise version.
Oh, there's a story there. Okay.
Okay, put a pin in it real quick.
Yeah.
All right. Hold on to it, though, because we're going to get to it. Wolfie, thank you for the super chat. He says, Broken Vader, meet Broken Rancor. Yeah, that'll be somebody sending me their broken HasLab Rancor in the mail. And KBA, thank you for the super chat. He said, if HasLab made Inhumanoids, would they fall over more than the originals? At this rate, probably. Yes, they would. I have a story about that, I can tell you. Matt Rubin, thank you for the super chat. He says, Hasbro never acknowledges anything the fans say during their live streams.
That is a fact.
Yeah, forget it. Impossible Pie. Blitzway Voltron is the late. It's Blitzway, W-A-Y. It's the latest officially licensed diecast combining Voltron. Highly recommend you go check it out on Big Bad Toy Store. It's going to be cool. It's going to be really cool.
What's the price point on that?
I think it's 700. It's a 15-inch tall. It's as tall as the vintage vehicle Voltron was, the really tall plastic vehicle Voltron, but it's all die-cast. Well, die-cast with a mix of plastic. But this is the first time where you get miniature pilots that are to scale with the lions that go inside. And aside from when the lion is formed and you have the front legs of the yellow and blue lions still sitting on the ground, aside from those legs, all the other lion legs now disappear into the body, just like the cartoon.
Oh, wow.
So,
it gets better, too. It's also got LED lights and flight stands for both robot and lion modes, which means if you want them to take off with the colors behind them, boom, you got that. And all the weapons
All
are
the weapons.
stored in the base.
Nice.
And all the lions can actually sit like cats.
Yes.
They can do all the things that everybody always wanted them to do. They're not just fixed in like standing position. They're like, they can sit, they can turn their head, they can, I bet you could have it do this number and have it like it's here. Like I swear, they look really good.
The thing with that though, don't be fooled that it's it's kind of a big toy and it is expensive, but that's only going to get worse because eventually it's going to grow up and you're going to have to put that thing through college. So
college, he can go fight monsters in space. That's what his job is.
That's right.
Go on Mount and fight monsters in space.
Analog Toys, thank you for the super chat. He says, I'm convinced that Hasbro stream was pre-recorded.
Probably.
Yeah, I get that feeling. Like I feel like they call them live streams, but what they are is really their premieres. It was God, what was it? The PulseCon last year or Star Wars? One of those freaking things that they did. When it came on, I was like, "This is not a stream. This is pre-recorded." And I forget what it was. I think I was talking to Jeff at the time, and I was like, "Yeah, this thing is the way they're acting, the way they're behaving. Like, there's hardly ever any like technical difficulties. Sometimes there are, but like." I get the feeling that they're mostly pre-recorded on like Zoom or something and uploaded.
Right. Edward, thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate that. All right, Thomas, your story.
Okay, so Earthrise Starscream came out in 2019. I like the toy. It shares a lot of similarities to the 2006 Classics toy in terms of design and function. But what Hasbro is doing is they have a studio series line for the 1986 movie. And up till now, all the toys in that line were brand new molds. All of them. They have a problem, in my opinion, of being too mechanically detailed in the sense of they're not really all that animation accurate, but their Grimlock is so much fun. I highly recommend him to anybody. But what they've done is they're going to do a studio series Starscream from 1986 movie. Here's what they've done. They've taken the Earthrise Starscream, they gave him a throne, and they gave him the coronation uniform, and they're charging $54 for him. And people are buying it, and they're happy about it. They're paying an extra $25 for a cape, shoulder pauldrons, a crown, and a chair.
Yeah, got a 30-cent chair in there.
What do you guys think about that common argument in the collector community that if I don't support it, they won't make more? That
has validity with smaller companies. With larger companies that should have an R&D, human resources, advertising departments, and all this other stuff, they should know what people want. The problem is they're being very insular and they're not really looking towards objective information, looking for what suits their biases or their business contracts. So if we don't buy it and they don't make it, at this point, are you losing anything?
Right.
That case in point, Super 7 is a small company in terms of the amount of employees they have. They are not a small company in the amount of properties they control at this point.
Right, yeah.
They have been able to get out a ton of stuff for the Turtles line on time. Still no other way but Thundercats over a year out since the first wave's release. So at this point, if not for supporting them, does that mean you're not going to get any? Well, you're not getting any now as it is. And when you do get them, they had to split Chitara off from the third wave because her hip joints have been damaged and broken this whole time. And they knew about this a year ago and didn't address it. The stuff they had out for PowerCon were all goofed up and they don't care.
Wow.
Why support them at all? If you were to the point to where, and here's the problem I think a lot of the toy community has. I think we have an addiction problem. I think we have an addiction problem because addiction can often be seen by obsessing over things that ultimately aren't going to mean anything or cause any severe difference in your life, and you throw resources, time, and money at them. We as a community are so stoked to get things, we don't sit there and evaluate whether or not we should have them. And I've fallen into that trap too. It's a reason why I've purchased a small amount of my Transformer collection. I'm looking at some of the stuff I bought from 2015, and I'm like, I don't even care about this character. Why did I get him? Because he completed the line. So at this point, I'm like, I don't need a complete line. That's not going to make me happy. This makes me miserable because now I got less shelf space for something really cool to come in. I spent money on this thing that I'm half the time not even going to get that money back because the toy's a piece of garbage. Thank you, Titanium Megatron. I never should have bought you Toys R Us. That's why you're $1 on eBay right now with literal descriptions saying, "Oh God, please take this demon out of my house." We've gotten to the point to where we're just supporting it because we like thing without any sort of measurement of quality or standards. We have to get back to having some sort of standards. If you get a company to understand they're not making money off of putting out slop, they'll stop having to put out slop or they'll shut down completely. This is why I give so much heavy criticism specifically to Transformers in their animated series, because their trilogy that just came out is dog crap. And if you don't support it, then they'll stop making it. Because that's what they should do. They should reevaluate. The problem is we're not dealing with individuals. We're dealing with corporations. A good example of that's also Thundercats. So what happened? The original Thundercats came out. It was a minor success. It wasn't super mega big. Let's be honest. It wasn't within the big 3 at the time. I'd say it was in the big 6 or a 10, but not the big 3. But what happened? 2011 came out. They took everything that everybody liked from Thundercats, and God knows what they did with it because it certainly wasn't in that show. And I'm just being honest here. I know they get a lot of grief for that. But the original Thundercats was fine. The 2011 one has the exact same problem Roar does, just in a different direction. So what did they do? Well, this one was too dark and edgy. So we'll make the next one really goofy and silly. They don't ever think, let's step back, reevaluate this, and find the middle ground. So what happens now that Roar said, well, we're going to go full movie now. And the movie's going to be dark, edgy garbage too, because the man helming that is a horror writer. Are you kidding me? So yeah, sometimes it's best just to let things lie. Yeah. I would rather, from this point on, I would rather have no Thundercats than terrible renditions of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's the standard we as a group or a community as a whole have to have. Stop accepting less just because it's something. Here's what's going to happen eventually. Transformers is a massive IP. It is a world-recognized IP. Third-party stuff's existed for the past 10 years now, and sooner or later, people are going to realize you can do that with other things too. And you can produce them in doggone China for a smaller amount of money. You can get niche collectors into it, and these other corporations, unless they make really nice with other Chinese executives, because they don't really concern themselves with punishing that stuff, you can do it with impunity, and they can't touch you. Sooner or later, that's going to get other branches too. It's not just going to be Transformers. You're going to see it. You already see it with Ninja Turtles, by the way. Ninja Turtles is doing it. You're going to see He-Man start doing it sooner or later. Maybe Thundercats in about two or three more decades. Sooner or later, all the clout and veneer of authority from these actual IP owners is going to be in the trash if they don't start getting it together.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that with the whole Origins thing. I love Masters of the Universe Origins. I know there's people that don't like it. I love them. I think they are. I've made 2 or 3 videos about them already, and I plan to make more. The only frustration is the distribution problems. It's like, dude, I would take every figure that comes down the pipeline for this line if I could find them. Right. I can't even get online retailers like Big Bad Toy Store. It's not their fault. It's Mattel not getting them the product. But I finally had to give up on my pre-order for Castle Grayskull with Big Bad Toy Store. Sal, found me one by the grace of God.
But Pete found me one, so
it all
forward.
It all rolls like that.
Yeah, it's like poetry. It rhymes.
Yeah, and if I had not canceled it, my pre-order for the Castle Grayskull would still be active on Big Bad. And I've got a pre-order in for the Playmobil Star Trek Enterprise. Mm-hmm. I've seen people online who've already received theirs, and I'm going, where's mine? I've double checked my credit card information. It's all correct. I don't know what's going on with the distribution, but I am concerned because when online retailers that are toy specific retailers, when I'm losing confidence in their pre-order process to even get me the thing, what do I do at that point? Do I stare down the barrel of those scalpers and just go, well, I guess I'm just going to be buying it from Joe Blow on eBay for a hiked price if I want it at all going forward? What's the answer? Before we answer that question, Analog Toys, thank you for the super chat. He said after they accidentally announced the Rancor on the Hasbro live stream, they will never live stream again. Grindhead Jim, thank you for the very kind super chat. He says between HasLab and now Mattel Creations, as it continues to spread into the Motu Origins line. I think that all this whining about retail was just a setup to justify the half-arsed Kickstarter BS, complete farce. Yeah, I mean, they really did kind of create their own self-fulfilling prophecy with that. You're not wrong, Grindhead. And then lastly, oh, did I lose it? Let's see. Tony, thank you for the super chat. He says, between quality control issues, HasLab crowdfunding, pre-orders selling out, and store exclusives, companies like Hasbro and Mattel are making it easy for me not to care about their products anymore. Tony,
yep,
you're singing my song. And then James Salzberg, thank you for the super chat. He says, pre-ordered a cool-looking Thundercat AWOK, AWOK. I know T-Walk. That's the Wrath of Khan. I don't know AWOK. But I'm glad you pre-ordered it. Awesome.
Maybe he's referring to the musician by the name of Thundercat.
Oh, I don't know. Thank you, World Made of Cardboard. He says, a guy I knew worked for Mattel. He said that toy companies no longer have research and development departments. They have marketing departments and outsource the engineering.
Oh wait, I know he's talking about Animal Warriors of the Kingdom. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Those aren't Thundercats. Those are furries, and I will fight you that there's a difference.
They're furries.
Oh, no. I can't even remember what I was saying before I started reading super chats. So,
Sorry.
No, that's not your fault. That was my fault. I can't. I'm getting old, and I can't do the thing over here until I do the thing over there. Yeah, like I am concerned about how these online retailers. That's not their fault. When I say this, I'm not talking about them like I'm talking about Hasbro and Mattel.
Right.
What I'm saying is these online retailers are dependent on these big companies to get them the product that they can then ship to everybody. And somewhere along the way, that is starting to break down within the Entertainment Earth Big Bad Toy Store network. And I'm going, and I know it's probably just with Hasbro and Mattel at this point. I'm sure if you ordered, and Playmobil, I'm sure if you ordered something else from them, maybe it would be more reliable. I don't know, from a different company, but I could have that wrong. Have you guys experienced that as well, or is it just me having bad luck?
Well, I experience it quite frequently in terms of, like, you're talking about pre-orders not getting the stuff you're supposed to get.
Yeah, like they just never fill the pre-order. The pre-order just never ships. It just sits there forever.
I experience it a lot. I pre-order from many places. One of my favorites to pre-order from is actually GameStop. Just because I've never been a big fan of pre-ordering something and then being charged when it ships. I like to pay up front, like when I have the money for it, so that way I'm not just randomly hit with a chunk of change disappearing. Because there's never like an email. Some places do, but by and large, there's never an email letting you know, like, hey, this is coming. Prepare your sphincter.
Right.
It's like
$200 is coming out.
You just get the email like, hey, we got your money. You'll get this when we ship it in 2 weeks. It's like, oh, gee, thanks. But some places like GameStop I have stuff pre-ordered from. I've had stuff pre-ordered from them since like March, and it's still not here.
Wow.
But that being said, GameStop, Big Bad Toy Store, those are two places where I pre-order regularly and have never had anything canceled on me. I do get it eventually. Places like Walmart and Target will cancel your pre-order straight up.
That's why I don't pre-order with them. I only pre-order with Big Bad, Entertainment Earth. Those are the two that I pre-order with. And so far, they've never canceled on me. But when I'm just within the last few weeks, I'm seeing people get the Back to the Future 3 Advent Calendar and the Star Trek Enterprise, and mine are pre-ordered, and I'm going,
what the heck?
Yeah, where are mine? KJ wants to ask, thank you for the super chat. He says, do you think Hasbro purposefully underestimates the number of adult collectors that are buying their toys?
Yes.
The reason why I'm going to say no is because I can attribute more to stupidity than I will malice.
Okay.
I think they're clueless. I think they're stupid. I think they're primarily a bunch of older people in suits that have no clue what they're doing, and they occasionally take word from other random people that are in their marketing department while not actually looking into any of it themselves. And back in the 80s, these people who worked for Hasbro were far more like feet on the ground individuals. They paid a lot of attention. They got a lot of mail about it because that was the primary form of discussion. But now we're on the internet, and it's harder to sort of funnel that information unless you know what you're doing. And if anybody's trying to do tech support for their parents, that's what trying to tell marketing people in corporations anything is like.
Yeah, you're absolutely right as far as my corporate experience has been. Analog has a question. He says, how do you think Hasbro could satisfactorily respond to the Sentinel debacle? Anyone?
Well, quickly, I'll address it later. I had a point about the whole underestimated on purpose and all that, but
No, go ahead.
So, living in the age of spin, as Dave Chappelle calls it, I feel that they know what the market is, but they don't want to chance the risk of overproducing, so that way they can go back to their board of directors and saying, look, we sold out. Like, they don't want to give it a number, because saying we only sold 10,000 units doesn't sound as good as saying we sold out. So, if they produce 20,000, then they're going to have to say, oh, we overproduced. But if they can say every time, hey, we sold out of that, we sold out, blah, 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 that's good to their board of directors, and that helps, those types of things. So I think it's more of a intentionally under manufacturing, not necessarily like total ignorance, though it very well could be. Thomas, I think you had some really great points about them just being completely aloof and taking all their information from other people.
Right.
So there could be any combination of those things. But when it comes to satisfactorily responding to the Sentinel debacle, I wouldn't even be happy with this, but the only thing I could maybe see that would like make customers whole is if they come up with their own thing. If they're like, hey, we re-engineered the legs, not necessarily here's a new Sentinel, but they'd have to like re-engineer the legs and say, hey, on our official Hasbro YouTube or whatever, we're sending you these legs to replace however many you ordered, and here's a video showing you how to replace the legs. Like, it wouldn't be ideal because that's still making you do legwork for their, fumble. But it would be something,
Right.
They're going to have to dig into their pockets to fix it. They can't just say, yep, we done goofed. So here's the new HasLab. Like, they're going to have to do something monetarily to reimburse the fans, whether that's sending everyone a new set of legs, which for the people that ordered 20 Sentinels, that's, it's going to hurt their bottom line, but they dug their own grave. Or they're going to have to reimburse collectors who bought them, like, however much is fair. I'm not sure how the price would break down in terms for the legs. That's about half the height of the figure. But they're going to have to do something monetarily to make these people whole.
Right.
So.
Anybody else have any thoughts? Go ahead.
Seppuku would work.
Ritual suicide. Yeah.
But no, in all serious, quote, undemonetized thing, they could be clever. They could take apart the knee, figure out a good kit that would fix it, or if they really want to be clever about it, they could ship out just different parts of a leg with a proper knee in there and say, this is the battle damage variety that you can use for a display. So you have like the toppled Sentinel half, and then you have like broken looking leg parts, and you just take the knee point out of that and put it in your regular one, and you're good to go. I can't speak too heavily about how viable that is because, again, I didn't back this thing because it has no interest to me. But yeah, they could do something like that because, again, third-party transformer companies, they do replacement parts for things that they have that are bad quality control or upgrade kits. So the fact that this literal Fortune 500 company can't is silly to me.
Yeah, that's always been my big problem. It's like these guys have billions in assets, and they're supposed to be one of the best action figure companies in mass production, and yet, they've got decades and decades and decades of experience, and yet they're pulling. The
longer they stay silent, the worse it's going to be.
Right.
Like at least be informing people on. We live in this digital age. You can't tell me that like we're already in contact with the factory and the engineering. We're anything.
Right.
You can spin it as they're going to spin it as positively as possible. And like you said, Lyle, like, oh no, now you have battle damage leg and you're getting it free.
That was our plan the whole time. You guys are smart.
Well, that's where like the Gundam community tends to thrive. So somebody's putting together a Gundam model kit and a part breaks. It's not like quality control, like they goofed up. Then they'll post on like Facebook or a forum like, what do I do here? And the first response is always battle damage.
Right.
Turn it into a battle damage kit. So that's where that instinct comes from.
Big Vis, thank you for the super chat. He says Hasbro should at least give more time to back a HasLab project. 1 month is short notice to budget money when they're putting out so much other stuff. I totally understand that. That's although they did extend the Unicron when it looked like it was about to fail.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We can't. Yeah, Unicron is too big to fail. We can't.
Well, I mean, it's a question about whether or not it's the size of the toy or the ego of Orson Welles that kept the thing powering through.
That's true.
Yeah. Not only did they do that in the normal way of, we're just going to extend it. Initially, this was going to be a HasLab exclusive. Then suddenly, hey, you can get through Entertainment Earth. You can get through Big Bad Toy Store, and you can pre-order through them for a small markup. So that's how we're playing this game. And the thing is, they actually did sell out because what happened was some people backed out of their pre-orders, Big Bad Toy Store, before it shipped. So what did they do? They took the extras that were left over from those pre and doubled it. So then it went from $600 to $1,200, and they sold it out.
Yeah. See, that's the thing that bothers me is, like I said earlier, these scalpers that literally went out there and bought 20 or 30 of these Sentinels. And even though they know that they've got this knee problem, they're just happy to sell them on eBay anyway. And I'm like, it's amazing to me how many uninformed buyers there are out there with a lot of money to burn. Shandarius, thank you for the super chat. He says, I've always hated the if you don't buy it, they'll stop making the line argument. Speak with your wallet. Don't buy flawed products when they know what you want and refuse to make it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And then we have Jim Largo. Thank you for the super chat. He says, today's Hasbro Pulse pre-orders for Shield agents and Skrull army builders sold out immediately. How? They haven't made them yet. Stupid. Yeah, I've never understood the whole thing about how they don't just let the pre-orders determine how much they're going to make.
Yeah,
which I find odd.
Leave money on the table.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. Tree Theodore, thank you for the super chat. He says, thanks, gentlemen, for your excellent insights. You're very welcome, sir. And then we have from Gojatron, this is a very entertaining live stream. I'm glad to hear that. The last thing I want to be is boring. That's why I brought Scuba, Lio, and Sal on, because it was just me. I'd have been like, these knees don't work, and I hate HasLab, and then everyone would have been like, this is boring.
I mean, we can at least have some solace for the inevitable HasLab that's Malibu Sentinel with hat.
But it has a new hat.
I could really use that belt. Oh, man. All right, so we are now staring Galactus in the face and the Rancor in the maw. I know we talked a little bit, Lio, you brought up the whole thing about how a lot of toy collectors have an addiction problem. I did want to point out, related to that, I have been looking over Scuba's shoulder all evening because I have to confess, not only is it awesome that you have the Sherwood Forest as your Ewok village, which I think is great. But I have run into a little bit of what Lio was talking about a few weeks ago, where I realized, hey, I can get a lot of Robin Hood Prince of Thieves figures because they're dirt cheap and nobody wants them. And I can just buy up tons of them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then the next thing I knew, it was like 2 weeks later. And I had like 5 or 6 complete, just from cobbling together from the parts bins, I had like 5 or 6 complete examples of almost like every figure. And I was like, why am I doing this? And I'm like, oh, because I can, not because I need to, just because I can, and I don't feel like it's really punching me in the bank account.
Right.
And I was like, that's not a reason to do something, you know? So, but I kept being reminded because I saw that green canopy back there and I'm like, oh, Robin Hood. Oh. And like I don't know if you can see it, but like, if you look right there,
yep,
that's like 6 of those Dark Warrior soldiers. They're all just sitting there like, because I've been able to put them all together from all the parts. And I was like, okay, it's time for me to stop now. Like I've almost got, what's that at, Thomas?
I said, I'm eyeballing that Cat Slayer. I'm like, that thing's gonna crumble any second. I just know it.
Oh, that the Cat Slayer. Actually, that one's doing okay. It's the other one I've got to repair for David.
It's just, man,
So.
those. I love Thundercats. I do, but God, the Cat Slayer playset is so doggone fiddly.
It is.
Yes.
It is. Hey, that's right, Jason. I have assembled my own Dark Warrior zombie army. That's right. They are terrible action figures, but I just ended up with 6 of them. And I'm like, hooray! Let's see. Analog Toys, thank you for the super chat. He says, they need to make back the money lost on Snake Eyes. Yeah, that's true. Their dreams of becoming a movie studio continue to slip through their fingers like sand. Grindhead Jim, thank you. He says, plus those are troop builders. Troop builders, by definition, a bulk product. It's beyond insane. Yeah, you're talking about the Sentinels? Yeah. Yeah. That's why I got so upset with the Remnant Stormtrooper being put in a Monopoly game. It was like, why is the Retro Collection Mando Stormtrooper being put in a Monopoly game? Only because they want to have one figure in every Retro Collection wave be $40 to $50.
Well,
so they put it in.
To buy the game.
Yeah, but the thing is, everybody's going to throw the game away. They just want. But that's my thing. It's like that kind of that kind of material waste should be criminal. Like they should be fined for making board games they know are going to get thrown away.
Yeah, and then flood eBay with.
Yeah,
how about this board game? No figure, 20.
No figure.
The problem is that'd be unenforceable because at what point do you draw the line there? Because again, I'm holding these SWAT Cat figures. These things, like, they are not good.
Yeah,
they're not really worth the money I paid for them, but I got them because I want to do a review, and these are one of the questions I had from my childhood that I still need answered for, and you'd also have to. It would be a very subjective thing. So yeah, the waste is a problem, but the bigger issue here is we keep buying it.
Yeah,
we didn't buy this stupid board game. They have to be true. They have to do one of two things: either one, never do that again, or two, start putting them out in the main line and stop worrying about their board games. Because the board games are always going to be tied into something else.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Laser Pants, glad to see you here. He says, with worldwide shipping delays and problems, could it be that Hasbro is starting 3 HasLabs back to back to make up for lost funds from retail? Maybe, but you know what? Their distribution at retail problems wouldn't have been so acute during this whole crisis if they hadn't been letting them deteriorate for the past 10 years. Like, yeah, KBA says, Retroblasting, how would you feel about a Robin Hood line from Valaverse? I would welcome it, and I would buy it with relish. Or I would buy it with gusto.
Actual relish.
Relish is a hot dog thing. I'd buy it with gusto. And then let's see. Ethan Michael Kane says, HasLab marketing. We can fix this. Just tell everyone the defective Sentinels are special Professor X Chase variants. The Hasbros will love it. I love how he's got a picture of the Riddler just to add to the mischief of that comment. I totally just pulled a Anchorman. We are laughing. I just explained the joke. Hayden TCEM too. Thank you for the super chat. He says, I do really hope Hasbro doesn't screw up Galactus since he will come in pieces. Okay. I didn't know he would come in pieces.
Is he to scale though?
I think that's relative. So we are at the hour and a half mark, and I wanted to keep this right at the hour and a half mark because I know I want to respect everybody's time on a weeknight. Does anybody have any final thoughts here on the panel on the stream about the HasLab Sentinel knee situation that hasn't been brought up?
Only that they gave ratcheted joints to the shoulders and elbows on that thing, and not the height. I mentioned earlier the dimensions of this fella. He's 16 inches and about 6 pounds, where the HasLab Sentinel is 26 inches and about 15 pounds. This one has ratcheted knees. Now, they're not like gear ratcheted, but there are notches in the knees to keep him from falling over. I'm just saying, like, if it can't be that far removed in the last, 3 years, 4 years at this point, where someone who was on the team that made this isn't there right now and was like, hey, should probably include that. And I saw someone earlier, I forget who, said local men don't know how to adjust a screw. And I'd like to say local YouTuber doesn't know how screws work.
Yeah, well, yeah, that is the problem, is that screws in plastic only work so long and so far. Ask everybody in the vintage toy world how many GI Joes are cracking apart these days, because
on top of that, when you have to keep tightening, because you're gonna mess with the thing, right? That's the entire point of a toy. Sooner or later, it's not going to strip the screw. It's going to strip the interior plastic, and then what are you going to do?
Right. Right.
Nothing. That's what you're going to super glue it together and hope to God whoever you sell it to on eBay doesn't notice. Because I've been rooked before like that. Okay, I'm speaking from experience.
What you do is you get yourself some JB Weld. You mix it together. You put it into the strip screw hole. You let it set. Then you come back with a screw and you tap it, and then you re-screw it in there. I'm not suggesting anybody do that. I'm saying that's the length you'd have to go to even attempt a fix that would act like the real construction. Otherwise, you're doing what Lio's doing, which is you just got to glue the thing together. I mean, it's a bad situation. Does anybody else have any final thoughts?
You may bully Val about Robin Hood once we are done bullying him about dinosaurs and SWAT cats.
Just throw me the impossible ones, why don't you? Yeah. Hey, Michael, do black hole. Oh man, I don't want to remortgage my house.
No, I'm saying bullying him about getting the licenses. Not. I don't expect, dude. The SWAT cats, like for the 4 action figures, the entire set was like $225. I am not touching dinosaurs. I like them, love the cartoon, but I ain't paying $560 for a broken dinosaur with no gun. Not happening.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Who is that Joker? Sorry, I'm looking at somebody who I think is causing
injured in the chat.
Somebody's causing trouble in the chat. Let me whoa. Apparently I'm late to the game. Oh, never mind. I don't remember what Loki's line was, but if it was to paraphrase, we have a Timothy Ward. So that's been dealt with.
I would like to point out that someone has an excellent point. Let me see if I can just find it really quickly. Wesley Hendricks, he says, Bobby Vala no longer works at Hasbro, and now knees don't work. Just saying. Just saying.
Real quick to Jack Mard say, Devil's Advocate, what do you think of Fuchs's idea of putting a washer in the screw? Doesn't change the fact that screw has to bind to plastic. And on top of that, the Fuchs has yet to actually objectively review anything that isn't just hyper excited. Let me make a funny face at the camera. So I trust them about as far as an anvil can jump. I would not trust these people to draw a bath. I wouldn't elect them as town dog catcher.
Yeah.
So no, I don't trust them. Let me know when they start talking about the actual problems in the toy industry and what collectors are dealing with. Then maybe we can talk about the Fuchs.
Yeah, Fuchs is it's great as a reference to find out what an action figure looked like or whatever, but they are hype men for sure. KBA says, Michael, bankrupt yourself doing tiger sharks. Yeah, I won't be finding those anytime soon. Holy crap. Yeah, so all right, gentlemen. Well, before we go, I want to thank all of you guys for jumping on here at short notice, because this was a crazy day. And when I saw the comments coming in on the video that I did, I was like, I got to do a live stream about this to try and really dig into this a little bit more. So thank you for being extra voices for this. So let's go around so everybody knows where to find you guys. Scuba, you are this is your first time, I think, on a Retro Blasting stream, but you are
it is, yeah,
long-standing friend and supporter of the channel. So you go first. Tell everybody where they can find you and what channel you're on.
You can find me on Chris Miwa's Chasing 80s Toys. Awesome YouTube channel. Great content over there. I'm always doing toy hunts with him, for him. He graciously edits because I'm just a monkey when it comes to the computer. So I can shoot video. Well,
though, you've got all the toy hunts. He's got the technology across the ocean. So if he wants the videos, he's got to pull out his 50%. So
that's right. We're
yeah.
We're bridging the gap.
He's you're his Batman to his Oracle.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Lio, where can everybody find you?
Lio Convoy's reviews. Good luck trying to figure out what I'm doing next, because at the time I don't. I've been trying to get out a review for the different versions of Star Convoy for about a week now, and I've been running into problems and nonsense showing up in my life. But if you like toy reviews that are boring but true, and if you like talking about animation or sometimes trying to take the piss out of a worthless human being, feel free to check out my channel. Just don't be surprised when you see the horrifying lion mask that's intentionally cheap because it looks like it has Down syndrome.
And finally, Sal, where can everybody find you, sir? Are you muted?
Apparently
Sal?
not here.
Sal is muted.
Yep, not the first time I've done. Not the first time I've done that. Because I like to take a drink of coffee or something. I don't want people to hear me glug glug or anything like that. But yeah, usually you can find me sniffing at the heels of you fine gentlemen. That was a little self-deprecation. We all like that. Anyway, I have my channel, 2 Cents Toys. Do a variety of things, mostly these very quick, like popcorn-esque reviews where it's just quick, dirty. There you go. There it is. I don't see the point in fluffing them up to an extent. Weirdly, Thomas might like this. I'm currently filming a Gunpla model kit build video time-lapse thing. I haven't done one of those in a while.
Which one are you doing?
The Char Zaku 2.
Char,
yeah, it's a cheap one. It's part of a 3-part series that I'm doing. So it's you mentioned battle damage earlier. That's going to be done intentionally. So I'll talk to you offline about it. But yeah, that's pretty much about it. I think this was a great discussion, and I was happy to be a part of it. For those who are tuning in late, I actually backed the Sentinel, so everything I'm saying that as someone who backed it. So it's not just one of those like, oh, you just couldn't afford it, you're a hater. It's like, no, I actually bought 2 of them, and I'm pretty upset by all this. So, and for those who want to come at Michael afterwards, both 2 of the people I would consider my closest and best friends, Michael and Tony, have both made videos about this, and we're still friends. It is possible.
Yeah, we don't base our friendships on what our toy buying preferences are. That's a road to juvenile ruin, is what that is. So, and we don't think Sal is, foolish or anything like that for what he's trying to get. We hope that his result turns out a lot better. We're just trying to talk about this in the broad sense for the betterment of the entire toy collecting community. So we can all move forward into broad, sunlit uplands. So yeah. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks for having such an active chat. We had over 540 or 50 people or 60 people at one point. Nice. For a Tuesday night. That's amazing. So thanks for making this a fun stream. Did I just slur? I almost bit my inside of my cheek and so I slurred. No, I'm not having a stroke. Thanks for making this a really fun stream, and we'll see y'all later.